Members of the Council, ladies and gentlemen, please be upstanding to receive the Worship of the Mayor, Miss Councillor Townley. Thank you.
Please be seated. Good evening, everyone. I'd like to welcome members to this full council meeting here in the Mechanics Theatre and thank our hosts, Burnley Leisure, for accommodating us. I think this is an opportune moment to also add our glee at the success of the British Lionesses. So if everyone show their appreciation. Thank you. Can I ask members of the public not to talk during this meeting, as this can be very distracting for members of the council and others listening to the debate? Can I also ask everyone to ensure that any mobile devices are switched to silent and do not cause a distraction during the meeting? I would remind everyone that the use of mobile devices for the taking or making of phone calls is not permitted in the Mechanics. The meeting is being streamed to the council's YouTube channel, so I shall take the opportunity to welcome viewers everywhere. I would also like to remind members that where they're able, they are required to stand when addressing the council meeting. We are not expecting a fire alarm tonight, but if one should occur, please follow the officers out of Mechanics Theatre to the assembly point. I'd also like to remind members that when addressing the Mayor, please use the term Mayor or Madam Mayor. That is polite and an act of courtesy. Finally, let us all remember to treat members of the public, elected members and officers with the respect they're due throughout the meeting as set out in the Code of Conduct for members. Item 1 on the agenda, minutes of the last meeting of the Council held on the 18th of May 2022. We will take the minutes of the annual council meeting first. I will move those minutes. Mr. Deputy Mayor, would you please second those minutes?
Second, Madam Mayor.
Thank you. All those in favour, say aye. Aye. The minutes are approved. We'll now take the minutes of the Appointments Council meeting. I will move those minutes. Mr. Deputy Mayor, will you second those minutes?
Second, Madam Mayor.
Thank you. Will all those in favour please say aye? Aye. Thank you. The minutes are approved on both counts. Item 2 on the agenda, declarations of interest. I believe we have one declaration of interest. Councillor Fewings.
Thank you, Mayor. Yes, I've got a declaration of a disclosable pecuniary interest in item 5B and 5C in relation to ownership of a property within the Heritage Action Zone and a grant contract in relation to that property.
Thank you, Councillor Fewings. Item 3 on the agenda, Mayor's communications.
There are none, Madam Mayor.
Thank you. Item 4 on the agenda, public question time.
None have been received, Madam Mayor.
Thank you. Number 5 on the agenda, items for decision by the Council. Can I point out to members that items for decision by Council are treated as motions. Once a proposal has been moved and seconded, members may speak once and for a maximum of 5 minutes. Members may then only speak again on an amendment. Members will note that the relevant minute extracts from the 13th of July 2022 executive meeting relating to the agenda items 5B, 5C, 5D and 10 are included in the main agenda pack after each report. Item 5A, constitutional updates and reporting. Please note that this report sets out 5 items, 2 of which are for noting only, 3 of which require a decision from this council tonight. Please note that Appendix 1 and 2 of the report have been published as a supplement, and hard copies have been circulated this evening, which I hope you have all had a chance to read. Due to an administrative oversight, the recommendation that full council make an appointment to the 2 positions of trustee on Burnley Leisure Board following the revised appointments process approved at council in February 2022 was not included in the report. In accordance with Council Procedure Rule 14.7b of the Council's Constitution, can I ask Councillor Afrasiab Anwar to move an alteration to the report to include this recommendation after paragraph 9? And can I ask Councillor Sue Graham, will you second the alteration to the report to include this recommendation? All those in favour, please show. All those against, please show. Councillor Afrasiab Anwar, will you now move the altered report?
I move the report, Madam Mayor.
And Councillor Sue Graham, will you second the altered report?
I second the altered report, Madam Mayor.
We will now take... Excuse me.
Need to be near to you.
Can members please ensure that the microphones are close enough to their mouths to actually make a sound? Otherwise, those listening...
Hello?
Otherwise, those listening at home don't have a chance. Thank you very much. Okay. We'll now take each item in turn. The recommendations at paragraph 6 and 7 are for noting. Any member? All those in favour, please show. All those against, please show. These items are noted. The recommendation at paragraph 8 relating to voting at meetings is for decision. Any member? All those in favour, please show. All those against, please show. This item is carried. The recommendation at paragraph 9 is for decision. Group leaders, one second while I find the rest of the paper. Group leaders were asked to submit nominations for the position of chair of the licensing committee by 5 p.m. this Monday, the 25th of July. Councillor Sumner has been nominated for the position. No other nominations have been received. Councillor Birtwistle, would you second the uncontested nomination?
I am pleased to move the uncontested nomination. Thank you.
Councillor Anwar, would you second the uncontested nomination?
I second the uncontested nomination. Thank you, Madam Mayor.
Any member? All those in favour, please show. All those against? Councillor Sumner is appointed chair of the licensing committee for the remainder of the current municipal year. Well done. Now we move, the final recommendation is for decision. The Council has received the following 4 nominations for the 2 positions of trustees on Burnley Leisure Board. Councillor Alan Lewis, Councillor Karen Ingham, Councillor Mike Steele and Councillor Scott Cunliffe. There are 2 positions to fill, one of which will be appointed for 3 years and one of which will be appointed for 2 years. To avoid the possibility of an equality of votes, we will vote first on the 3-year appointment. If there is not a clear majority for the 3-year appointment after the first round of voting, the nominee with the lowest number of votes will be eliminated and another vote taken in line with Council Procedure Rule 16.6 until there is a majority of votes for the 3-year appointment. We'll now move to the vote. Please keep your hands up until Democracy have indicated that they have had time to count the number of votes. All in favour of Councillor Alan Lewis. All in favour? Oh, down. Hands down. Is that all right? Yeah. Okay. All in favour of Councillor Karen Ingham? Who's voted twice? Councillors are only allowed one vote. Okay, so one vote. So if you voted for Councillor Alan Lewis, please do not use your vote again. So can we have a show of hands for Councillor Karen Ingham, please? And all in favour of Councillor Mike Steele? All in favour of Councillor Scott Cunliffe? Yeah. I think I can safely declare that Councillor Alan Lewis is appointed as a trustee of Burnley Leisure Board for the 3-year term. We'll now vote on the 2-year appointment. If there is not a clear majority for the 2-year appointment after the first round of voting, the nominee with the lowest number of votes will be eliminated. Actually, I don't think that's going to happen, so we're going to simply go straight to the vote as we have done before. All in favour of Councillor Karen Ingham? All in favour of Councillor Mike Steele? All in favour of Councillor Scott Cunliffe? Councillor Scott Cunliffe is hereby appointed as a trustee of Burnley Leisure Board for 2 years. Item 5B. Councillor Fewings, I think you may wish to leave the room at this point. Thank you. We'll call you back when it's over. Councillor Sue Graham, will you move the report?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I move the final outturn revenue budget report.
Thank you. And Councillor Afrasiab Anwar, will you second the report?
I second the report, Madam Mayor.
Any member? All those in favour, please show. All those against, please show. This item is carried. Item 5C. Final outturn capital budget 2021-22. Councillor Sue Graham, will you move the report?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I move the final outturn capital budget report.
Thank you. Councillor Afrasiab Anwar, will you second the report?
I second the report, Madam Mayor.
Thank you, Councillor. All those in favour, please show. All those against? This item is carried. Item 5D, Treasury Management Activity Annual Report 2021-22. Oh, sorry, Councillor Fewings. Start that one again. Item 5D, Treasury Management Activity Annual Report 2021-22. Councillor Sue Graham, will you move the report?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I move the Treasury Management Activity Report.
Councillor Afrasiab Anwar, will you second the report?
I second the report, Madam Mayor.
Thank you. Any member? All those in favour, please show. All those against, please show. This item is carried. Item 6, reports from committee chairs. Please can members note that for this item and the next one on strategic plan progress reports, members should not refer to named individuals when asking questions or making observations. This is also not the time to raise your own personal case reviews. Questions on delegated council functions should be directed to the relevant committee chair rather than to executive members. 6A, Scrutiny Committee. Councillor Howard Baker, will you move your report, please?
I'll move that report, Madam Mayor. Thank you.
Thank you. Any member? Audit and Standards Committee, 6B. Councillor Wajid Lord Khan, will you move your report, please?
Madam Mayor, I so move my report.
Thank you very much. Any member? 6C, Development Control Committee. Councillor Saeed Chowdhury, will you move your report?
Thank you. Thank you, Madam Mayor. I move my report. Thank you.
Thank you. Any member? Licensing Committee, 6D. Councillor Sumner, will you move your report?
I move my report, Madam Mayor. Thank you.
Any member? Thank you. And so we move on to item 7, Strategic Plan Progress Reports. I will take each report in order. I will ask for any questions on the report and the executive member will respond to one question at a time. The same procedure will then be followed for observations. Can I remind members that with a question or observation, they must clearly quote the page number and reference. This allows the members some time to locate these in the report before you ask your question or make your observation. Also, will members please be concise in their questions and observations and remember not to refer, once again, to named individuals or to use this as an area to air their case work when asking questions or making observations. Councillor Afrasiab Anwar, will you please move your report?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I will move my report, and in doing so, just like to add a few words. I think, as set out in the report, some of the activity that has been going on since we last met. One of the things that I do want to touch upon is the headline data from the Census has also been released. And what that shows is that the population of the borough has gone up by 8%, roughly about 7,000. And that's really positive news for the borough, particularly when we consider that a number of years ago people were saying that people wanted to leave Burnley and wanted to move out of the area. And the fact all of the work that's been done by not only this administration, but the administrations before that in actually attracting people to the borough who want to come here, live, work and play in Burnley as well, and making Burnley an attractive place for people to come here. Some people are moving up the ladder, into the housing ladder, into new homes, the developments that we've got, the fantastic businesses that we've got as part of the work that we do with Burnley bondholders. And some of them are moving into the area because of the jobs that we're creating as well. And I think it's also important that we mention, obviously, the support that we provide as a borough, especially as part of the ongoing commitment that we've got to the resettlement programmes. And the reason I mention that is because, obviously, Burnley is a welcoming place, and it's a welcoming place for everybody. But it's also 10 years since the start of the Olympics in 2012. And we all know what happened then. a man by the name of Mohammed, who was an immigrant to this country, trafficked into this country, went on to win 2 gold medals for Great Britain. And it's about the contribution that people from not other parts of the country, but from all over the world can to make to this fantastic borough. I move my report, Madam Mayor.
Thank you, Councillor. Any questions? I was actually going to give Councillor Birtwistle first. Actually, if you wait until, yes, if you could please.
Sorry.
Yeah.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. It relates to PR1, page 80, and the levelling up situation. You may recall at the last meeting, 2 ladies came from the Queensgate area to complain about the state of the area they were living in. Councillor Anwar and I walked the area with these 2 ladies, as we promised we would, and discovered people living in cars. We discovered people living in a van. We discovered a large number of properties that weren't fit for habitation. And after we walked all that round that ward, we asked these 2 ladies, did they feel they were being involved in the levelling up process? And they said, no, we're being levelled down. Does the council leader agree with those 2 ladies?
Councillor Anwar.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. In answer to that question about whether I agree with those 2 ladies, I think what I would like to point members of this council, all members to, is the Centre for Cities report that was released last week or earlier this week. And one of the things that pointed out was that Burnley was one of the hardest hit area right across the country when it comes to, obviously, the impact of levelling up and how that's been affected. But it also pointed at 2 points of why the reason for Burnley being the hardest hit as part of that is. And the 2 areas are, 1, housing stock in the area because of the housing stock that we've got, and the second was related to transport links. And when we look at both of those in terms of investment in the past 12 years from the government in places like Burnley or in the north, it's been non-existent when we talk about transport links because we're still heavily reliant on our cars. And then the other thing was around housing market renewal. If that had been allowed to go ahead and not scrapped by this government, then our housing stock would look very, very different. So in response to that, what I would say is, yes, I do agree, and we're seeing that the gap actually, per capita, is actually increasing between places like London and the south and places in the north. So do I agree with those the comments that those ladies made? Absolutely, yes, I do, because the government is failing to actually level up. One of the things that I will say as part of that is that I'm so glad that actually we as an administration, last year, made the decision, everybody in this council made the decision to actually apply for round 1 of levelling up. The funding that was available, and the reason for that is because it looks like even the government is giving up on that slogan of levelling up as well. But in terms of what are we doing to level up in terms of the resources that we've got and with the limited capability that we've got, is you only need to look at the fantastic work that we as a council have done over the past 12 months. We've delivered on Pioneer Place. We've invested in our town centre because we believe in it, and we're also delivering in terms of turning Burnley into a thriving university town as well. So we'll do our bit, but it's time the government did theirs. Thank you, Madam Mayor.
Thank you, Councillor Anwar. Councillor Cunliffe.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. This is a very short report. I'm referring to PR1, PE1 of page 80 and page 80 and a half. It's a very short report, which is not really what I expect from a big hitter, like the leader of the council. My group would actually like to see a lot more detail on the leader's reports. So my question is the leader of the council on a strategic diet? Or is it that LCC and other partners are not pulling their weight?
Councillor Anwar.
Thank you. Thank you, Madam Mayor. Just in response to that, with the report being short, I'll just say 2 words. The first one is delegation, and the second one is teamwork. And also, you'll have noticed that the current member for Economy and Growth spent a lot of time last year actually going in for photo shoots and opening envelopes and things like that, so I thought I'd get my money's worth out of him and make sure that his portfolio is fully there. But it's about teamwork. It's not about it's the details of the report, because some of those will be picked up in other portfolios. But I think it's about whether I, as the leader, am pulling my weight, and if anybody thinks I'm not, then I'm here and they can question that, and I think I'm doing my best in that. With regards to the question about what's going on at county and the Lancashire deal and things like that, as set out in the report, one of the things that you will see is that I make a mention of it at the local government conference, at the LGA conference. I did actually speak to Michael Gove, who was the then obviously Secretary of State, and he asked us about our relationship with Lancashire, and my response to him was that the relationship with Lancashire as the authority is actually really, really good, or it was, because for the first time in a long time, all 15 leaders have agreed that we want to work together on making sure we can bring more investment into Lancashire and for Burnley ultimately. But I said, what we have is that the white paper that his department have released has said that districts don't get a voice. So it's actually the government that stopped the work of all Lancashire district authorities and the upper tier authorities working together. Now, he said, he wasn't aware of that. So I said to him, well, you need to read the white paper that we've all read, which says that districts don't get a voice. And he said he would look at that. I must have really hit a nerve, because the Prime Minister sacked him the following week. So, and I'm not sure who the new Levelling Up Secretary of State is, but it's probably because that Secretary of State probably didn't give the middle finger to members of the public on his first day in post. So I think it's, we will continue to work as much as we can with Lancashire, on the Lancashire 2050 deal, in terms of putting a plan together. But I think what we also need is we need some direction and directive from government as well. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Anwar. Any other questions? Any observations? Councillor Whitaker.
Thank you very much, Madam Mayor. I just want to reference what the Leader of the Council mentioned there about how brilliant this
Page and number, please, Councillor Whitaker.
Page 80, PR1, continuation. I just want to reference that, please, if I may. Councillor Anwar's told us how well we've done with the Levelling Up Fund, etc. Let's all please remember the Levelling Up Fund is from the Conservative Central Government. Let's also remember it was signed off by the Conservative Member of Parliament for Burnley, Anthony Higginbotham. Let's also please remember that £3 million of extra investment was brought by the Conservative County Council for the Pioneer Place development. A further £3.6 million was also provided by the Conservative Central Government to finally finish off the Pioneer project, which this council has kicked around the bush for the last 17 years. It's all well and good saying how well we're doing, but please do not continue to have a go and say you are not getting funding from this government, because you most certainly are. Thank you very much, Madam Mayor.
Thank you, Councillor Whitaker. Councillor Fewings.
Thank you, Mayor. It's page 80, PR1. I'll just make an observation, really, that the levelling up funding that has been received and is welcome is a drop in the ocean in terms of the cuts that have happened since 2010, after 12 years of Tory austerity.
Thank you, Councillor Fewings. Councillor Gordon-Lishman.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. As Councillor Fewings might indeed have added, the amount that we're getting is 40% less than we were getting from the European Regional Development Fund. It's interesting that Conservative friends continually talk in terms of cash sums. What we don't hear is how far those cash sums have gone down. What's happened now over many years is that support for local government has diminished. I mean, this is going back to what the late 1970s, and that continues to happen. And the more that happens, the more difficult it is for the council to be able to meet the sort of obligations which Councillor Whittaker mentioned. The fact is that our government is providing less support for our economy, particularly as we come out of COVID, than any other European country, and it is second from the bottom of the OECD list in terms of new investment and the likely outturn in terms of our country's gross domestic product. In those circumstances, talking about a few teaspoons of help from time to time really isn't an alternative to developing a national government strategy for economic development. I might just add to that in one of his attacks on his own party, Councillor Oscar at the recent scrutiny meeting complained that the 2010 to 2015 government was not providing, had provided less support than it is currently doing. That is, of course, a gross untruth. However, we were talking at the time about skills development, one of the most crucial areas for the development in Burnley, where we need badly and urgently to increase the proportion of our population which has got a range of basic qualifications. And it may be said, again, I don't know if Councillor Hosker wants to come back on this and attack his own government further, but one of the things that government did was to appoint Councillor Birtwistle as its National Apprenticeships Ambassador in order to promote training and skills qualifications throughout the whole of the country. Now, that was an achievement, and it was an achievement I'm proud of, carried out by a colleague of mine. To summarise, we really should not be congratulating our current government for its comparative success in providing small quantities of money which are dwarfed by former contributions both from central government and the European Union.
Thank you, Councillor Lishman. Any further observations? In which case we'll move on. Oh, sorry. Yeah, sorry. Councillor Anwar, do you wish to respond?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I think Councillor Fewings did the job for me in terms of the response to the question that was asked by Councillor Whittaker, or the observation in terms of with levelling up, to talk about that funding that's coming in. But it is a drop in the ocean, and we actually have to look at what we're actually asking for. We're not even asking for levelling up when we're speaking to government. We're saying, give us back what you took away. You know, what we had over these past 12 years. That's the first thing. And we've already seen, already we're talking about the UK Shared Prosperity Fund, 40% less than what was already in place before. So that's not levelling up, that's levelling down. And it's great to, obviously hear Councillor Whittaker making a contribution to these meetings, but I just wish it wasn't always a party political broadcast and a cheerleading on behalf of the MP.
Thank you, Councillor Anwar. And that concludes that particular report. Councillor Sue Graham, would you please move your report?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I move my report. I've just got a couple of comments to make. The first is about the climate strategy. And we haven't managed to recruit to the climate change manager post. So we're looking at alterations to the scope of the post in an attempt to find a suitable person. It's an important position, and I hope we will be successful in getting the post filled. The other point I'd like to make is that you'll see in the report that collection rates for council tax and building rates, they're reported under PF2, are starting to normalise after the disruption caused by the pandemic. But the pressure on household incomes given the massive rise in energy costs, may well impact on council tax payments when people have to make choices about whether to pay bills or put food on their families' plates. Thank you, Madam Mayor.
Thank you, Councillor. Sorry, I should have started that with Deputy Leader and Executive Member for Resources and Performance, Councillor Sue Graham. Moving on, any questions? Councillor Cunliffe.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Yeah, PL 5, page 82. Not surprised that we're going to discuss the climate emergency strategy. I think in our Lancashire homes now, you all realise that we are living in unprecedented times. We were all sweltering this time last week, and the climate change is real and it is affecting us. So I've raised this question a couple of times with officers, but I really want to see that there's a bit more urgency on this. And what I'm putting the question to the executive member is, could we reconsider not just having an annual report on our climate change strategy, but having a more frequent report on it, because the times call for that. You know, when the COVID emergency hit and when the cost of living emergency hits, we're all hands at the deck. We all want to help residents of the borough that we live in. And I think the same sort of amount of urgency should be given to the climate emergency. So I think we should be I'm asking you, can we actually have a more frequent review of this climate strategy, not just an annual review, which for me is going to leave us lagging behind? Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Cunliffe. Do you wish to reply?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Yes, Councillor Cunliffe is right. In our Lancashire homes, we do have the COSY strategy, which is, I can't remember what it exactly stands for, but it's aimed at helping people replace obsolete and inefficient boilers. We are also doing a lot of other stuff, and I think your point about the strategy being reviewed on an annual basis is a good one. I would anticipate that an annual review would just pull together the things we've done during the year. But on an ongoing basis, action is taking place. We are at the moment going through a process of decarbonising council buildings and seeking advice on that. The park services are undertaking meadow management, which is a climate change action. We're installing EV charging points. We're electrifying our own fleet, putting our own house in order first and dealing with our Scope 1 emissions. And we are working with the Chamber of Commerce, the college and others in promoting greener businesses. We're also upskilling staff and hopefully soon members on carbon literacy training. So there is a lot going on, lots of which you will recognise as being part of the climate change strategy. But I wouldn't see that as sort of stopping things until we have an annual review. It's just ongoing work that will be tidied up and placed in an annual review so people can check up on what we've been doing. Thank you, Madam Mayor.
Thank you, Councillor Graham. Councillor Fewings.
Thank you, Mayor. It's page 82, PF1. It's just in relation to the targets for providing services to residents. Many other members have raised this over the years, time and time again, and I'm a bit of a broken record on it, but we've got stats here for the number of calls answered. That's literally picking up the phone when someone else is on the end of the line. But what I would like to see in the stats is number of queries resolved. It's really important that we're making sure that when residents call through, someone answers the phone and then they deal with their query, because if we don't have that information, this is a bit of a nonsense. So I'm just asking if the executive member can put pressure on Liberata to provide that detail. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Councillor Fewings. Councillor Graham.
Yes, we've had issues about Liberator's response times for quite some time now, and we've continued to review the process. I understand that Scrutiny are meeting with Liberator to talk about this in the not too distant future. I think it's a fair point. The trouble is defining how resolution occurs to a question. It can be as simple as yes or no, am I eligible for a grant, or am I eligible for a rebate? Or it can be very, very complex and may take months and months to resolve through no fault of Liberator. So it's a fair point, but I will take it up with Liberator. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Kelly.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Page 82, PF1. Similar question around the call times. It says something about 76 seconds. Presumably the 76 seconds starts after this is Burnley Council, blah, blah, blah. If you want this, press 1. If you want that, press 2. If you want this, press 6. Do you remember that you can go on burnley.gov.uk and you can find this, that and the other out? So you've actually spent 3.5 minutes before you get to the 70 whatever it is seconds. So just on that one as well, as a councillor, and I don't know if this is just me or whether it affects other people, would it be possible for us to have a list of contacts in the town hall with direct numbers? Because sometimes if you want to ring somebody up, you might not actually know a name, or you might know a name, or it might be a department, and you sit through all that lot, and then you say, you know, I would like to speak to somebody, such a body, in such a place, and then you'll have a wait, and you get the wait, and you think, have I been cut off? And you wait, and then you get some plinky-plonky music, and then finally you get somebody. But would it be possible for us to have a list of direct telephone numbers, and then we don't have to go through all that performance every time? Thank you, Madam Mayor.
Thank you, Councillor Kelly. Madam Mayor, I think it's a very valid point. I just completely get turned off by all that stuff that we get at the beginning of a call. I have to admit that what I tend to do is drop an email to the person I want to speak to saying, please can you ring me, because it saves going through all of that. I see absolutely no reason why we can't have a list of town hall contacts for members of the council. I have my own list of the people I most frequently have to get in touch with, but I see no reason why all councillors can't have something, and it would help new councillors perhaps understand things a bit better. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Graham. Sorry, are we on observations now? Yeah. Observations. Councillor Chamberlain. Oh, sorry, was yours a question, Councillor Chamberlain? Right, sorry, I missed you out.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. My observation is on PF1, page 82, and it's also to do with the call centres. I've noticed frequently that on a Friday afternoon, even if you have the extension number, you get bounced straight back to the reception, time and time and time again. Is there anything that can be done to alleviate this problem for all of us, please?
Is that's a question, not an observation, I would say, Councillor Chamberlain? Yeah. So I was under the impression he was actually asking a question. Would you like to reply, please?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Councillor Chamberlain. That was definitely a question. I can assure you that our staff work on Friday afternoons, and I can assure you that there is adequate cover in their teams if the person you don't want happens to be on leave or out of the office. Then there should be somebody else picking up the phone, and you should be able to get some kind of response. I'll go back to what I said to Councillor Kelly, really. Emails work wonderfully well. And especially if you're not sure. Don't forget that a lot of our staff are out working outside of the office, and they have to be, that's part of their job. So emails are a very good way of getting in touch with them. Thank you, Madam Mayor.
Thank you, Councillor Graham. Are we finished with observations on this issue? No. Councillor Hosker.
Yeah, observations.
Councillor Hosker,
Madam
please
Mayor.
acknowledge the Mayor before speaking.
Yeah, Madam Mayor.
And stand. Yeah.
Yes, Madam Mayor. Just in reply to Councillor Graham. Councillor Graham, yeah. Regarding people using internet, emails, etc. There's a lot of senior citizens haven't got internet. And I've told this council time and time again, your senior citizens, some haven't got the internet. I don't know what part of English they understand. Again, you get people that can't read, they can't write. They haven't got the facilities, and some haven't got money for a computer. So maybe take that into consideration.
Thank you, Councillor Graham. Would you like to reply?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. The question I was asked was from councillors about councillors communicating with officers in the town hall. It was not about members of the general public. Councillor Hosker should perhaps listen to what his colleagues are saying.
Thank you, Councillor Graham. Councillor Fewings, an observation, please.
Thank you, Mayor. It's page 84, PF3. I just wanted to talk about the cross-party support group and the work that officers put into this. It was nearly 2 years ago that Megan and Alex were doing a How Can We Improve the Report It tool, encouraged by our Chief Executive, and I just want to acknowledge the work that they did in actually getting feedback from councillors as to what the problems were with the Report It tool before we've ended up in this new situation. Rob Dobson has taken it forward and we've got the app coming through, so I'm very excited about it, and I just wanted to thank the officers for that work.
Thank you, Councillor Fewings. Councillor Hurt.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Again, it's PF3 on page 84, and again, it's on the Love Clean Streets pilot. I'd just like to say that I'm certainly looking forward to members gaining the access to it. As somebody that spends 5 to 6 hours a week reporting 50-plus fly tips and dirty backyards every single week, that's going to save me hours and hours, and I'm sure the same will be for other members. So thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Hurt. Any other observations? Then we shall move on to the Executive Member for Health and Wellbeing, Councillor Margaret Lishman. Would you please move your report?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Happy to move the report. Just to mention a couple of things in passing. I note in the report that I haven't mentioned the Armed Forces Day, which was a great success at Townley, and I'm sure some of us were there, I know, and it was a great event. The other two things I'd just mention is that if people haven't had the opportunity to have a look at the community grocery store in Valley Road, they should, because it's a wonderful example of working together and making a difference. And the final thing is that I hope you've all noticed the wonderful displays of wildflowers that we're seeing all around the town. Thank you, Madam Mayor.
Thank you, Councillor. Any questions? Councillor Fewings.
Thank you, Mayor. I actually have 3 questions, but I'm confident the executive member could probably take all 3 at once. So, PE4, page 85, Burnley Together. The first thing is just obviously to thank everyone involved with this. It's an absolutely amazing resource. And my question is, there was some conversation about this being disbanded after COVID, and I'm hoping from this report that is not the case, and I just wanted to make sure that we're backing that going forward. And then the other 2 questions are PL4, page 87, reference to the play strategy and closing parks. As the executive member will probably remember, I've asked numerous times as to whether that's going to result in Jesse's Park being closed. So if I could get confirmation as to whether that's on the list. And then just very quickly in relation to the tennis courts under the same item, if we're going to start charging in peak times, how do we ensure that those on lower means who are only available during the peak times are going to still have access to tennis courts?
Councillor Lishman.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Burnley Together is keeping going. I think it would be remiss of this council and our wonderful partners to think about disbanding it when we're looking at what might well be an extremely bleak winter in front of us. Regarding Jesse's Park's resources are being moved to a more appropriate position, and the park and the memory of Jesse will be commemorated by, I think, a bench on that particular site. There's been a review, as you know, of the play strategy, and there was the opportunity for all councillors to comment at the scrutiny meeting, and I know it was a long and heated discussion, and very useful on both sides to hear what everybody had to say. We have a finite resource at our disposal for playgrounds and for play strategy, and we have a duty to make it go as far as we can for the most people that we can, and that is the whole point of the play strategy. And on the final part, in terms of charging at peak times, I think what we've tried to do in conjunction with the Lawn Tennis Association is to provide a model, and along with the Lawn Tennis group in Burnley, is to provide a model that provides as much as we can for the resource that we've got, taking advantage of the monies that will be coming in to do up those pitches, or courts, I should say, not pitches, shouldn't I? But how it will work, we're going to have to see. This is a new venture for us, and it was a difficult decision to take to set up the system that we have done. It's worked well elsewhere, and we've not seen any evidence from places that have it in place that it has actually made a difference in terms of people with low income. But we are going to have to see what happens. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Lishman. Councillor Cunliffe.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. We're on PL4, page 88. It's also on parks. On Worsall Recreation Ground, I want to commend the officers that I've worked with. And we've got like a 3-page here of mini projects within a massive project. But unfortunately, we've fallen behind time in making sure that the sort of development of Worsall Recreation Grounds is upgraded. It's fallen behind time, partly because of COVID, but we've had a year to get things going. We've fallen behind time again. So I want some reassurance from the executive member that we can make sure that this gets finished and done and dusted. And again, my door is always open to work with you on this so that it does get moved forward a bit more speedy than it has been in the past. So hopefully you can give me a reassurance on that. Thank you.
Councillor Lishman.
I know, Councillor Cunliffe, that you've had a far more detailed response from Simon Goff about this particular thing, and I think all the reassurance that you need is included within that, because I've read it as well, and I'm reassured that things will be progressing.
Thank you, Councillor Lishman. Councillor Hosker.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Can I ask the executive member, as executive member, I spoke at the executive meeting, and I asked about the money funding being sorted out for the Paddy and Bowling Green.
Page number, please, Councillor Hosker.
Sorry, Madam Mayor. PL4 87. I asked the executive member about funding for this. She agreed funding needed spending, which is fair enough. I'm asking the executive member maybe tonight she could give me an update. And the second question I've got for you, to the executive member. I went for a walkabout with our chief exec. And I took our chief exec to the Melvin Avenue Park on Lancaster Drive, if you remember. The park's dropping to bits. And in all finance, you put round Burnley and some in Pavement. This area seems, in my opinion, seems to be missed out. I pointed out to Mick how they were dropping, how the thing, it just corded. I said, look, it's there to this, dropping to bits. Can you tell me last time this park had some money spent on it? And after doing that, some funds coming in our direction.
Councillor Lishman.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I think in relation to both those questions, they deserve a much fuller answer than I can give now. And I will make sure that Mr Goff provides you with that as soon as possible. Councillor Hosker.
Thank you, Councillor Lishman. Any further questions? Oh, Councillor Hurt.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Councillor Lishman. It is PL4, page 87, Play Strategy. As Justice Park is currently scheduled for closure with the equipment moved to Piccadilly Park, I wondered whether any thought had been given towards the accessibility at that park. Currently, as far as I'm aware, there are only two entrances to that park. One is down a series of steps, the other is via Albion Terrace, which is a back street that's cobbled in quite poor condition and often has cars parked on it by the residents of Albion Terrace because that's the only place that they can park, which means that anybody with a wide buggy, pram or a wheelchair or with mobility issues will struggle to access that park. So I would just ask that accessibility to that is looked at before anything is moved from Jesse's Park. Thank you.
Councillor Lishman.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I would hope it has been, but I will make sure that that message is passed on. Thank you very much for raising it.
Thank you. I think we're on to observations. Any observations? Any member? None? Oh, one. Councillor Whitaker.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. First of all, I'd just like to thank you for the excellent report you just gave there, Councillor Lishman. It's very heartwarming. I just want to refer to page 85, PE4, the Burnley Together hub. I'm very, very pleased that this is going to continue to be there. I'm glad that we accept there's a need for this. As we all know, there's been a series of global forces that have caused a cost of living crisis. It's around the world, and it's the government's main priority to make sure that families struggling are helped with the finances, amongst other things. That's why the government set out a £37 billion support package, including a £650 cost of living payment for every household on mean tested benefits, which means around 8 million households throughout the UK will receive this. The first of the instalments have already started going out earlier on this month, and the second to follow in the autumn of this year. It's good that that's happening. Pensioners will also receive an extra £300, whilst disabled households will get a further £150 payment on top of the £150 council tax rebate they got in April and the £400 cash discount on energy bills in the autumn. Through this support and the support of Burnley Together, over 8 million households receive at least £1,200 supporting the most vulnerable people in our society during a difficult period. Burnley Together has done an absolutely fantastic job throughout the COVID pandemic, and it's great to see that this is continuing. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Councillor Whitaker. Councillor Anwar.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Just wanted to check that we were on observations on that report and not a party political broadcast for the Conservative Party. And then the second point to make is that I find it ironic that we've got a member talking about cost of living.
Councillor Anwar,
what they've done over the
page
past 12
number.
years.
Councillor Anwar.
I'm coming to that, Madam Mayor. I just wanted to say, PE2, page 89, the Active Burnley strategy. I think, obviously, you mentioned earlier on around the success of the Lionesses, which is absolutely fantastic. We've got the strategy that's coming up for review, and just this evening we've put forward two members who are going to be sitting on the Leisure Trust, and I think it's a great opportunity not only to move forward with the fantastic work we're doing with regards to girls' participation, but also driving diversity as well of the work that the trusts have already started, but making sure that we get representation from all groups. So hopefully the members that we've nominated today and put on the board will be able to do that. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Anwar. Any further observations? Councillor Fewings. I don't think he's done it before, has he?
Thank you, Mayor. It's page 85, PE4. Just in relation to Burnley Together Hub and the food bank and all the really hard work that all the voluntary and faith sector do in our town, I'm just observing really that they're picking up the slack from the government. If the services were there in the first place, we wouldn't have working people having to rely on food banks. We wouldn't have the need for Burnley Together Hub if this government hadn't had 12 years of austerity. So let's not celebrate the fact that people are literally having to choose between eating, heating, and whether their children should eat or they should eat. It's absolutely unacceptable.
Thank you, Councillor Fewings. I think that rounds up that particular... Oh. Councillor Lishman, sorry, I keep forgetting to... Would you like to respond? Thank you very much. So we'll now move on to the Executive Member for Housing and Development Control. Councillor John Harbour, would you please move your report?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Happy to move my report.
Thank you, Councillor Harbour. Any questions? Councillor Hosker.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I'd like to ask the Executive...
Page number...
PL2 90. I can just about see it, it's half missing. Yeah, I'd like to ask the Executive Member, when you get tenants going into these houses, it's private tenanted houses, you have to have references. The owners of the houses, do they not get, do they not get some kind of, if they own the houses before they rent them out, the owners, do they not get security checks? I ask you that because in some areas, we've got drug dens, and I work with police, before you say anything about that. We work with antisocial behaviour. They don't seem to be bothered about who we put in these houses. And that includes calicos. Can you have an answer to that?
Councillor Harbour.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Whatever the issues and problems that Councillor Oscar's coming across, I'm sure he's already reported them to the officers and to the police, and they will be looking into them. If there are issues where selective licensing areas and procedures aren't being followed up, then please give the examples to the officers, and if not, give them to me, and we'll chase them up. Thank you, Madam Mayor.
Thank you, Councillor Harbour. Any further questions? Any observations? Councillor Briggs.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Page PL3, sorry, page 96, 93 I should say, PL3. I'd just like to thank Councillor Harbour and the Executive for getting Windsor Street and Ivory Street back into circulation. It is a bit of a mess up there right at this moment in time, and Padiham Road runs right past it, and it'll be a fantastic thing for us to do in the next coming months to uplift the town. Thank you very much indeed.
Thank you, Councillor Briggs. Councillor Harbour, do you wish to respond?
Yes, thank you, Madam Mayor. I'm grateful for Councillor Briggs' observation. I think we have a proud record of doing these facelifting schemes right throughout the town. We've done it in Queensgate, we've done it in Accrington Road. I personally thought that this one was an important one for us. It's a main gateway into town, whether you're going to or back from Padiham. Thousands of people pass those two blocks every day, and I'm pleased to see that it's in the programme to be done. While I'm on my feet as well, I'm also glad to see the two streets in Padiham which are down for facelifting. So I endorse the thanks of my colleagues on the Executive and to the Councillor who brought these schemes forward. Thank you, Madam Mayor.
Thank you, Councillor Harbour. Councillor Chamberlain.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I refer to PL2, page 90, regarding selective licensing in Burnley Wood, Healy Wood. Whilst I welcome this, one of the selective licensing officers was in the community centre last Friday. It serves no purpose having a selective licensing officer in there if the fact that he's in there isn't publicised. We were informed 2 hours before he arrived. It would be better served the public if that was publicised properly. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Chamberlain. Councillor Harbour.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I appreciate the observation the Councillor just made there, and if he talks to me after the meeting, I will chase that up and find out why that happened. It shouldn't have happened, but we'll make sure it doesn't happen again. Thank you, Madam Mayor.
Thank you, Councillor. Councillor Chowdhury. Hold on 1 second.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. It's regarding the point that's been raised.
Can you give us page and point number, please?
Page 90, PL2. I just wanted to inform the council that I have, in partnership with my other colleagues, we have been in touch with the officers and we have distributed about 25 posters and displays in different places in our ward to raise the awareness about the licensing scheme. So I think if the other councillors or other wards can do that, that will be a great help. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Chowdhury. I think the point was that no prior warning was given, but I'm sure they will join in doing that as soon as they know what, when and how. Councillor Harbour, would you like to reply?
Just to thank our colleagues for his remarks, Madam Mayor. Thank you.
Thank you. I think that concludes that particular item. We'll move on to the Executive Member for Community and Environmental Services, Councillor Shah Hussain. Will you please move your report?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. And I move my report.
Any questions? Councillor Fewings.
Thank you, Mayor. It's page 94, PL1. It's just in relation to electric vehicle charge points and the pavement licences. Obviously, as we seek to achieve net zero, we need to do a lot in relation to decarbonisation of transport, and electrical vehicle charge points is part of that solution. I have raised directly to officers in the past, and I think the portfolio has moved executive members since then, but can we please ensure that when we install charge points, we're not installing them on the pavement so that disabled members and women with pushchairs, etc., are not losing that pedestrian space. There's lots of solutions out there where you just have literally in the car parking space on the road, the charge points come out in a little island. Can we prioritise that, please? Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Fewings. Councillor Hussain, would you like to reply?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. And thank you, Councillor Fewings, and I will make sure some of your points are taken into account by the officers. In terms of blocking pavements, I've not seen any charge points that are blocking access to prams and so on. I know they're very close to the curb, but if we want more electric charging, then we have to do it as cost effective as possible. But point taken. I'll make sure the council officers take that on board. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Shaw. Councillor Birtwistle.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. It's page 94, PL1, relating to pavement licensing. I've been approached by the Royal Society for the Blind regarding A-boards. Could the executive member explain the licensing requirements for A-boards? There's a large number of A-boards appearing across the town outside shops and things like that. And basically the blind people can't see them. And there's a lot of accidents with blind people walking into pavement junk, as I call it. And you can include charging points in pavement junk. There should be nothing on the pavements. The pavements should be clear for the residents that they're developed for. So my question to the executive member is, what is the licensing situation for A-boards outside shops and other premises.
Councillor Hussain.
Thank you, Madam Mayor, and thank you, Councillor Birtwistle, for raising this question. I honestly do not know the licensing rules. Otherwise, I'm not a law person, but I will. What I can do is email the officers and make sure that they give you a thorough email explaining what the rules are. I myself have seen a lot of A-boards, and sometimes it seems that businesses just put them on without having appropriate licenses. So yeah, I would ask the officers to look into this and make sure we get that these things sorted for people who it's being issued to. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Hussain. Now I think, was it Councillor Hurt who wished to speak?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. It's PL1, page 94, and there are two on there. The first one is environmental enforcement, and I just wondered whether, as the council, we're exempt from this enforcement because it has taken almost 3 years to get a plot of land cleared by this council that the council owns on the corner of Berry Street and Cleveland's Road. It's finally being cleared now, but it is coming up to the 3rd anniversary from when it was first reported, and I don't think that's acceptable by us as a borough council that it's taken so long. And the second one is something that I've emailed about, and again it's on electric vehicle charging points, and it's regarding the one in the Centenary Way car park. It is going to be made accessible, which is something that I pointed out a while back, but I was disappointed by one response that I got stating that it isn't necessarily there for public use, which sort of implied, and it's for taxi drivers, which sort of implied that taxi drivers don't have mobility issues or accessibility issues. So I would just like to ask the executive member to ensure that when we are getting these charge points fitted, no matter who they're for, that accessibility is taken into account. Thank you.
Councillor Shaw.
Thank you. Thank you, Councillor Hurt, for your question. And with regards to the one on the removal of rubbish from Berry Street, if it's getting done, that's really good. In terms of amount of years it's taken, I possibly wouldn't know in terms of the nitty-gritty of it all, but if it's finally getting done, brilliant. Yes, thank you for your email. I've received your email, and in terms of the electrical vehicle charging points. With regards to what you said about made use for the taxi industry or sector, I think what we want to do as a council is encourage taxi firms and drivers so that they use electrical vehicles, and I think that's a way of encouraging drivers to do that. And as you know, there's a lot of taxis within our town centre serving our communities, and it's important that we provide them with those facilities. And if we can do that, we're definitely cutting down on carbon, because they're one of the major contributors to carbon footprint. So in terms of being accessible, you've read the email yourself, so I'm assuming it's for that, but I think what we need to do as a council, and all over the place, and I think LCC has a role to play here, is ensure that we get more EV and electric charging points throughout the borough, throughout the county. And I don't think it's just a borough emphasis. It should be the county council who should take the lead on that. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Hussain. Any observations? Councillor Birtwistle. Are you, sorry, Councillor Birtwistle, was that a question? Sorry, we'll return to a question. Councillor Holsker, please. Can I ask members to show succinctly? I don't have eyes in the back of my head. I've been watching this room, and if you suddenly bob up with your hand 2 seconds before I'm moving to observations, we will continue to move to observations. That is prior warning, okay?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I have a couple of questions.
Can I please have the number?
Sorry, yeah, page PL1, 94. Yeah. Can I ask the executive member what influence he's got on the police for turning up to these parish council meetings, including Pavement Town Council? I go to these meetings at Upton Parish. I've been to a couple of meetings at Pavement Town Council, but the police just fail to turn up. And when we want to ask the police the questions, we can't ask them the questions because they're not there. Another question I asked him, how about on scrutiny?
Sorry, one question, please, Councillor Hosker. You didn't have your hand up succinctly before, so I have made an effort to include you in the question time. If you wish to make an observation on one of these points, please make it when we come round to that fact. Name that point of order, please, Councillor Birtwistle.
I can't name the point of order, Madam Mayor.
Well, then please sit down. Please sit down. To members in this room, if you wish to raise a point of order, please give its number. Do not just simply say you're raising a point of order. That just means you're making a complaint. Right, we're moving on to observations. Sorry, which councillor was that? Oh, sorry, Councillor Hussain, do you wish to respond?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Yes, thank you. And with regards to what Councillor Hosker said, influence on the police, I've no influence of the police, Councillor Hosker, unfortunately. Otherwise, I've had few points from my licence removed. But saying that, MATAC, multi-agency and communities coming together, meet on a regular basis, and we do engage with the police in terms of tackling antisocial behaviour and so on. Looking at the group is very good in terms of we get issues brought on from councillors like yourself, and then the MATAC group would then tackle that. Just to give you an example, in my ward, they had issues around the community centre. Agencies got together and would work on that. So that's some influence that we can have through the council. And I would encourage you to use that, okay, and contact the officers to do that. And I hope that answers your question. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Hussain. We are now moving to observations. Councillor Barton.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. PL1, page 94, I would just like to come back with an observation in response to Councillor Hosker's comment. The reason why you are not getting policing presence in those situations is wholly down to Conservative cuts to policing budgets, which have directly impacted on the ability of local officers and PCSOs to attend.
Councillor Barton, can I just remind people you are actually replying to the exec member to their question. You're not, this isn't a free-for-all, okay?
Apologies.
Councillor Birtwistle.
Thank you again, Madam Mayor. It relates to page 94 on pavement licensing. Just a point that I'm delighted that the executive member is going to send me the law on A-boards and other pavement junk. I just hope when we understand the law, we can enforce it. I was approached by an elderly lady who was blind the other day, and she said the only use for those A-boards is for something for my blind dog to cock its leg up against. She said they are the most dangerous piece of pavement junk there are because the dogs don't actually pick them up very well. Not only are the A-boards taking over the pavements of Burnley, a lot of shops are expanding their size of their shops by building half a shop outside on the pavement. and they take it in at night. Surely the council there must be a rule within the council where a shop is inside the shop window, not outside. So I thank the executive member for that, that he'll send me that about the A-boards, but I do hope when I do get it, we can enforce it and make get some of these A-boards off the street and make it safe for the less fortunate members of our community who can't see where they're going. So I do hope that happens. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Birtwell. Councillor Hussain, do you wish to reply?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Yeah, in terms of what Councillor Birtwell said with regards to shops taking over payments, if you could give some specific examples as to where these shops are, I'm sure our officers will investigate and take relevant action. And that's just not Councillor Birtwell, so that's to all councillors. If you've noticed obstruction on the pavement and we as a borough need to do something, then please do tell the officers, and I'm sure the officers will take the strongest measures possible. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Hussain. Councillor Hurt.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Firstly, I'd like to just thank Councillor Hussain for his remarks earlier. I just want to clarify on the taxi EV charging points. I do fully agree that we need to decarbonise the taxi fleet within the borough, as well as things like delivery vehicles. But it's more about the accessibility of those chargers to any members of those, like taxi drivers, delivery drivers, etc., that may have limited mobility. Whether we have or have not got taxi drivers within the borough that have mobility issues currently, that doesn't mean we won't have in the short or long-term future. And I think we do need to keep in mind that whatever sector that we're looking at, we always keep in mind accessibility, whether that's for people with mobility issues, sight issues, as was brought up with the A-boards and things like that. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Hurt. Do you wish to hear all the observations and then make a reply, Councillor Hussain? Thank you. Can we move to Councillor Anwar then, please?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Page 94, PL1. I noticed the executive member mentioned that he has no connections with the police, and I'd just like to remind him it is a Conservative Police Crime Commissioner, so you might want to get in touch with them. And then the other thing I just wanted to mention was that around the taxi trade, and it's not just the taxi trade, and I think sometimes what happens is us as councillors, we can get bogged down with focusing just on the taxi trade. It's about every single sector taking their responsibility when it comes to tackling this issue we've got with carbon neutral and the climate change strategy. But bottom line is it comes down to investment from government into infrastructure so we can get to that point. So I just wanted to make that observation. Thank you, Madam Mayor.
Thank you, Councillor Anwar. Councillor Hosker. This is an observation, I have to tell you, not a question.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. PL1, 94. It's an observation based on the fact I was sat on scrutiny. And while I was sat on scrutiny, something came across about antisocial behaviour in Dane's house. When I was hearing this news about this antisocial behaviour use running the place, it was a concern, not only to me, but to Anne Kelly as well. We both sat there and listened to it. I was just wondering if anything was being done about it. Thank you.
That seemed to be a question. However, we'll move on to Councillor Baker, please. Oh, writing's getting so bad.
Thank you. Just a quick observation. It's page 94, PL1. It's pavement licences and things like that. I looked into this a few years ago with a view to getting some money into the council by charging £100 or something like that for a board. But at that stage, perhaps the member can look at if this is still true or not, but pavements are owned by Lancashire County Council, as are the roads. So we have no control over A-boards or anything, as far as I'm aware on it. But it might be just something to interest. And just regarding Councillor Oscar's observation, while she's not listening, Councillor Kelly isn't on scrutiny, so she couldn't have been there. So, thank you. Sorry.
Thank you, Councillor Baker. Councillor Hussain, do you want to round off the conversation?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. And echo the comments Council Leader has mentioned with regards to electric charging points and so on. In an ideal world, you know, I saw a video about a few months back when you drive past and a little pod pops up and you can plug your car in. In an ideal world, we'd need that. And I think it's up to government to look at it and provide the funding for us to do that in order to become carbon neutral. And so it's with regards to investment. If we had the money and the investment, then that could happen. With regards to Councillor Hosker, I'm not sure, Councillor Hosker, as to what you were referring to in Dane's House. Was it not Queensgate, or do you have a memory lapse? Yeah. Okay. So, Councillor Hosker's always asking those questions. I think one thing that you need to do in your role as county councillor, not only that, but a very senior member of the Conservative Party, you should be directing those questions to A, Police and Crime Commissioner, who is a Conservative Party member, to leader of the Lancashire County Council, who's responsible for youth-related services and other issues regards to that, and thirdly to your MP, who need to put in funding for us to tackle all these things.
Can you please withhold your applause? This is a council chamber, it's not a circus.
Thank you, Madam Mayor.
Thank you, Councillor Hussain. I think that rounds that one up. Can we please move on to the Exec Member for Economy and Growth, Councillor Mark Townsend? Will you please move your report?
I move my report, Madam Mayor, and members may have noticed that the report is quite long compared with previous reports. I make no apology for that. I've just moved into the portfolio and I took the opportunity to do a full reset to put everything into context for myself, members, and obviously members of the public. But I think what it does show is all the great work that's gone on in the past, because I've certainly inherited a full in-tray from my predecessor, Councillor Roger, and I'd like to thank him for that, and Councillor Anwar and the work that has gone on in the past. And I think it demonstrates the vibrancy and the wonderful effort that's going on around business and growth around our local economy, despite some of the challenges we face from central government to get on with all the plans that we would like to. And I move my report, Madam Mayor. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Townsend. Any questions? Councillor Baker.
Thank you. Page 100, Pioneer Place. We've noticed, or people have commented to me, that the car park now appears to be full and ready. When can the council reclaim this back or take control of it again and get some income to the car park funds? Thank you.
Councillor Townsend.
I totally agree with Councillor Baker. It is a frustration. The car park is complete. There are some hold-ups, I believe, in terms of final sign-offs, but we're pressing as hard as we can to get those resolved as quickly as possible, and let's get some cars back onto that car park and we start generating revenue and getting people close to the town centre again.
Councillor Townsend, you forgot to recognise the Mayor.
I do apologise, Madam Mayor, and I should know better after the year I've just had. Yes.
Thank you. Councillor Fewings.
Thank you, Mayor. Page 102, PR4. It's in relation to the reference to the SPD for HMOs, houses in multiple occupation. I first raised my concerns about HMOs with the head of Housing and Development Control in January 2020. There's a lot of conversions under permitted development rights that are happening in our town, changing properties into bedsits. And that is happening in condensed areas and causing lots of issues in terms of having transient residents. It increases antisocial behaviour, it increases pressure on the waste and recycling services, and it makes it difficult for communities to flourish when the majority of the houses are being turned into short-term bedsits. So my question is, and I asked this specifically in January 2020 and a number of times since, is can we please look at this problem and ensure that we are using all the powers available to us, including Article 4, to remove permitted development rights in certain areas so that we're having checks and balances on these types of housing, because they're causing lots of issues, and because it can be done without reference to us, we've kind of lost control of it now, so we need to urgently address it. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Fewings. Councillor Townsend.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. And the Executive share Councillor Fewing's concern in this area, and I know we have had a number of discussions already about what powers we have, what powers we don't, to try and get on top of this situation. And certainly I'm in close consultation with Councillor Harbour as the housing portfolio to make sure that we continually keep this under review. I recognise that it is a concern to members right across the borough, and I can assure him that we'll be keeping a close eye on this.
Any further questions? Councillor Hurt.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. It is PR5, page 103, and I do appreciate you might not have the answer to this with you, because it's just something recently thought about asking. It's regarding Sandygate Halls, and I wondered what the current occupancy rate of the halls was, and whether the total rent income on that is currently on target with what was predicted, or are we doing any better? Thank you.
Councillor Townsend.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I don't have the detailed information, I think, as you would expect, but since Sandygate Halls, I'm just going to talk generally so I don't fall into giving you incorrect information, have been a success in terms of occupancy. But I think it's only fair that I give you the accurate figures, and obviously if any other member wants to see those when we get them, then quite happy to share.
Thank you, Councillor Townsend. Councillor Conliffe.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Might be a bit off script this, but I have contacted the executive member about this, so he's probably prepared to answer, which I hope so.
Have we got page and number?
Oh, sorry. PR2, page 97. It might also fit under PR1, page 80. Page 80. Burnley, as we know, Burnley has the potential to produce more green energy than it actually needs. Just think about that for a minute, what that would mean to the residents of this town and the businesses. Yeah? With rising energy costs, the residents and businesses of Burnley could reap a massive energy dividend if we have the right vision and the right plan. Our local plan goes into some detail about the potential for wind energy in the borough, which already benefits residents in my ward. Madam Mayor will understand that. The potential for geothermal energy, solar and other renewables is undeniable. It's not quite in the plan, all that is, unfortunately. Stockport Hydro, Gateshead geothermal, plus other plans around the country are showing what is possible, and they're reaping the benefits of government grants. They're out for this. Our vision is to harness the above into a coherent energy plan for Burnley Borough. As things stand, there is no provision for geothermal, hydro or solar farm allocations in the local plan. That leaves us open to energy companies coming in, taking a lot out, but not leaving a lot here. So my question is the executive member willing to collaborate to see our vision come into fruition?
Thank you, Councillor Conliffe. Councillor Townsend.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. This is an extremely important topic, for not just for this borough, but for the world going forward. So we all need to collaborate in order to get the best solutions, not only for this borough, but for wider communities. He's absolutely right in terms of solar, geothermal, and other aspects. Lots of research is all being undertaken to see what's possible and whether it's scalable. All I can say at this stage is it's on my radar. If we need to amend plans to meet the challenge going forward into the future, then obviously this council will consider doing it, because that's what we need to do, be adaptable and be responsive to changing situations. But do I remain open to consulting and taking the best advice and the best ideas from anywhere? Absolutely. My door's open. Thank you, Madam Mayor.
Thank you very much, Councillor Townsend. No further questions. Moving to observations. Any member? Wow. First time today. Item 8. Questions.
None have been received, Madam Mayor.
Thank you. We have one further item, 9, which will be a part 2 and requires the exclusion of the public. Councillor Afrasiab Anwar, will you move a motion to exclude the public from item 10 as per the agenda?
I move the motion, Madam Mayor.
Councillor Sue Graham, will you second the motion?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I'm happy to second that.
All those in favour? All those against? That's carried. Can I thank everyone who has attended here, especially the contingent from Hindburn. It was a pleasure to see some of my old colleagues, and we look forward to welcoming you here again. We also sadly have to say goodbye to those members on our webcast. Thank you very much for joining us. We look forward to seeing you again at a later date. Thank you very much. Thank everybody. Thank the British Lion. That's it.